All right. So we're continuing on the critical journey, the stages of faith, stages in the life of faith. And here is the picture of the stages. Last week we talked about stage 1, which is the recognition of God, a sudden awareness, oh my gosh, I believe in a God. And all that brings into our life, the sense that there is something greater than us, a sense of awe, a sense of inspiration. The next stage in this life of faith, after we come to an awareness of God, is the stage 2, called the life of discipleship. And the main goal in this stage is to learn about God. That's what faith is. It's learning about God. It's also kind of a stage of apprenticeship, where you find a place to belong, a leader to follow, other people who can show you the ropes, teach you what this faith and this God is all about, and then you can start to mold your life in it with a sense of belonging. The next stage is called the productive life, where you feel like you have a good idea of what it means to believe in this God. You understand that you have some unique gifts. And now you want to start living for this God. You want to start serving. You might even step into some new roles of leadership, really becoming a contributor to that community that shaped you so much, taught you so much about who this God is and what this faith is all about. So you really start to live your life. You produce a lot of good things in response to this God and all that you have learned about God. And the main goal in stage 3, faith is working for God. I think, and as we go through this stages of faith learning together for the next few weeks, my experience of ELCA churches is we're really good at stage 2 and stage 3. That we know how to support people in these 2 stages. And as I go through these stages, I hope you'll keep that in mind about what a community of faith looks like and how we live out this faith together. Whew, I'm out of breath from that bird story. I forgot to announce that Audrey is facilitating yoga on Tuesdays, starting January 23rd, which is next Tuesday, 6 to 7. It's free. Come when you're able. You don't have to register. It'll be in Trinity Room, and she'd like you to bring a mat and a towel. And she told me that sometimes she sprays lavender on the towel, so it might be good for that. AM or PM? PM. Thanks for asking, though, because it could be AM. Okay, let's dive into stage 2. Again, please raise your hand. Let me know if you have any questions along the way. I don't mind being interrupted, especially if something isn't making sense. This is a big theory of stages of faith. I wish I could give you the whole book. I'm just kind of getting along on the surface. So if something doesn't make sense, please let me know. Okay. This is stage 2, the life of discipleship. And I want to give you some examples of people who said some things to the authors that show this experience of stage 2. I am new in the faith. I need to know where to go to find the right answers for my many questions. There are so many different viewpoints that I am somewhat confused. How can I know what's really right? Another example. Our pastor gives us clear teaching on the life of faith and the causes we should be involved with. He knows the community so well, and we are ready to learn from him. That's why we're here. We need sound instruction and community issues to work on. And we're so fortunate to have him as our pastor. And then this third example is super interesting to me because it's someone who's not a part of the church, which I think is really important for us to keep in mind, that these stages of faith can happen outside of an organized religion. I'm mostly focusing on faith communities because that's what we're a part of. If you were to read this book, though, you'd see how people can have these stages of faith in relationship to nature, to social causes, to a political campaign. So here's an example of someone not a part of the church. I would not call myself religious because the church isn't for me, but I'm definitely on a spiritual journey. I get together with others who are too. We explore all kinds of spirituality, other forms, other brands, so to speak, and other processes. We are all seeking to learn and come to truths for ourselves. So each of these examples that I just shared really show how this stage has a sense of belonging. You come to an awareness of God or something bigger than yourself, and in stage 2, you discover a place to belong. It's either in a community or with a leader, someone that you can follow, or a cause that you get drawn into. Listen to this description of stage 2 experiences in church and see if this sounds like a congregation. For a sense of belonging. Frequently, there are groups within groups that give a sense of belonging at this stage. Most faith communities deliberately try to break themselves into smaller units. Small groups are created for social contact, women's circles and men's breakfast groups, for education, Bible studies, and seminars, for task forces, boards and committees, choirs, small groups or support groups toward personal and interpersonal growth, or for grief, separation, divorce, unemployment. Through all these settings, we experience God through association with others. The group forms our concepts of who and what God is. Often, key figures, particular leaders, exhibit what we are seeking to experience. They become models for us. So in this stage 2, a really important characteristic is that we experience meaning from belonging. That we get our answers about who God is and what God is like found in a leader, in the cause, or the belief system. Some pastors can function as this kind of leader that everybody likes to follow. I had an interesting experience when I was a pastor in Ames, Iowa. The women's group loved Beth Moore. Are you familiar with Beth Moore? All the circles would get together and regularly watch videos of Beth Moore's teachings. She was the leader. Everything she said seemed right to them. Her personality, her charisma, her sense of humor. She was the leader, no matter how hard I tried. Beth Moore was the one who really helped a lot of people in the congregation feel like they belonged, that they had a good understanding of what faith and Christianity was. And when they looked at her, they saw, oh, that's who I want to follow, and that's what I believe. In this stage 2, there's also a sense of rightness. And the authors describe this feeling as, I found it. And they emphasized each word. So when they said, I found it, the I is, oh my gosh, I found the place that I believe, where I belong, who can show me what to do. I found what I've been looking for. And with the found, it's still that same feeling of, I once was lost, but now I'm found. So you feel like I found what I was looking for, I had been lost, and now something found me in this leader, or this cause, or this community. And the it in that phrase is the way. the way that really shows me what life is all about, who God is, what I believe, and how I am to live, what direction to go in. There is a sense of rightness in this stage of faith. In the life of discipleship stage, there's also great security in our faith. We receive a lot of comfort. We know that we can't figure everything out on our own, but we feel like there are people who can tell us which way is right, which way is wrong, what is truth, what is not truth. So there's a security from a sense of certainty that the community offers. Any questions about the characteristics? I'm going to hear, sorry, Michelle, I'm making you run before.
I just don't want to stand and be a
Yeah.
So my comment is, in all the years I've been here, I think what I've heard more than anything is this church is so big, but I don't feel like it's big because I've found my spot. I've found my small group. I've found my place.
Yeah.
And so that is a huge part of Lord of Life that I think we are very successful at, is helping people not feel like they're walking into this massive congregation, but helping them find their spot where they can feel secure.
Yep. This congregation does a great job of giving people a place, a sense of belonging, that they're not alone on the faith journey, that we're in this together, and we have some kind of guardrails too. We have an idea of what we believe and who God is and what is not. That's kind of a boundary thing. Okay, let's look at what it's like to get stuck in stage 2. In this part of the journey, we get so excited that we found it. We think we know for certain what it is, what the truth is, who God is, that we can get rigid in righteousness. We can think that we are right. I like how our authors write this. It's very seductive at this stage to believe that what is right for us in the faith is what is right for everyone else as well. Whatever the group's orientation, whether liberal, conservative, or in between, its teaching, doctrines, codes of conduct must be adhered to, or the offender is alienated. I appreciate that they lift up this righteousness can be found in conservative, liberal, and moderate communities. There is a sense of righteousness of what we believe and how we act. And if you don't live within those boundaries, then there's something wrong with you, is how we can appear if we're stuck in this stage. The next characteristic of being stuck or caged in this life of discipleship is a mentality of we against them, or we versus them. We get a little bit isolated sometimes in our thinking. It is in this section that they raise a caution flag about cults. So they're even naming that people who get caught up in a cult or a real strong group that's really around a big personality can get pretty rigid in this way of thinking of us versus them. I have a feeling there's some of that going on in our politics with the polarization, that there's a real strong commitment to causes, people, and I am right and everybody else is wrong. Great alienation in isolation from one another. That's what it looks like to be stuck in this stage 2, where you feel like you finally found your group, we've got the truth, everybody else is wrong. So they're raising the flag about that. The next characteristic of being caged at stage 2 is switchers. And I love this paragraph because I've, as a pastor, experienced a lot of switchers. I just have to read it. We join a group that looks very much alive and ready to meet our needs or beliefs as we have come to recognize them. We join, participate, and live in the group for a time. But then gradually we come to realize that the group is not exactly what we had been looking for. We grow disillusioned with it and criticize it. We accuse the group of changing and fault it for not being for us what we really need. It may be that the leader has begun to move in a different direction than the one we found or thought we found upon joining, so we leave. We may try initially to make changes or voice our difference, but to no avail. We feel betrayed. While we have kept the beliefs or lived the faith in our perception, others in the group or the leader have not. Our security is threatened. We then switch to another group that now appears to be more in keeping with our needs, beliefs, or ideals. We are not moving on in our journey, but we are moving around. And the movement gives us a sense of progress along the way, but we're actually stuck. This is really interesting to me. It often is hard to not take it personally when someone switches congregations. I'm sure you've had friends move on, and sometimes there is a real personal reason. But sometimes people are caged. People are just looking for this sense of belonging, belief, and security. And if there's any kind of change, they go looking for it somewhere else. So I lift that up as sometimes it's hard to feel rejected in a church when someone leaves. And it may not be all about us. It might be something they're going through.
Okay, in my hometown, we had a Swedish Lutheran church and a German Lutheran church. And when they merged, they all went to the German Lutheran church. That did not last long. Soon, both of the groups were used to being the power group. So the original group built another church on the outskirts of town. It had nothing to do with religion.
Yeah. So I think many of our switches don't, it really is about something going on deep within us. So the gift of this kind of stage theory is when we're feeling frustrated with a group we're a part of, it's really a great opportunity for us to do some self-reflection, like, what do I want out of this group? What has it meant to me? Where am I at with it right now? Where do I hope to be? Is it about them, or is there something going on inside of me? I think it's real important that we reflect on our own self, especially when we're getting resentful and frustrated. Just attend to whatever spiritual needs we need as we continue to develop. On the flip side of the switchers are the searchers, and they're people who aren't at all interested in being a faith community. They're trying to avoid memories of simplistic solutions, ideals, rigidity, and actual hypocrisy of religious experiences of youth. And they become communities of non-religious faith seekers. So that's interesting, too. I'm sure we've all known people who've just given up on church and try and find a community somewhere else. So we have these characteristics of belonging, looking for a leader, a cause, a sense of rightness, and a security. And then the caged experiences are when we get rigid, we have a we against them mentality, and we start switching around because people aren't meeting our needs, or we start searching for the same reason. I'm going to now move, for the sake of time, to stage 3, the productive life. Sorry, I'm so bad at PowerPoint. Okay, stage 3 is the productive life. This is when we feel like we've been apprenticed in the faith. We feel like we've learned what we wanted to. We've been taking it all in. And we get to this point where we feel like we have a good understanding of what our community is, where we belong. And we start to discover, or people see in us, unique gifts. And they ask us to contribute, to step out and even lead in some ways. Here are some examples of people in stage 3. I know what my faith is all about and how great it is for me, I have a strong sense of responsibility to lead others on the same path to fullness in God that I feel. I want so much to share my joy. Another example. Now that I've been in Alcoholics Anonymous a while, I feel the responsibility of being a sponsor to someone else is a high calling that I will accept. Another one. I never thought I could do it, be in charge of the nursery at church. But I have really accepted God's strength, which God gives me for each Sunday. And finally, I used to be a really insecure and needy person. Now I have a sense of security and confidence and feel that my life is going somewhere. Faith is such a confidence builder. Can you hear that movement from learning, getting to a sense of belonging, to being called out to serve, to lead, and even to find this confidence that comes when we start living our faith and being productive for God in our faith? I love the nursery example. I think that's so real. People don't think that they can actually lead in that way. And when they're asked to, they're surprised by their abilities. And it's a real honor, and they see how they're making a difference for God and for the church. This is a time when people start to discover their spiritual gifts, or start thinking about that God has created me with unique gifts to serve for the betterment of our community and for the world. Okay, so the characteristics of stage 3 are this uniqueness in the community, where you do go beyond that sense of being a sponge, of learning everything, to realizing that you have unique gifts to share, and the community needs you to use them. So you step up in leadership or service in some way. Responsibility. The example they say is, each of us has an area of responsibility that we can use for God. Our main concern is to be faithful to our task and succeed in it. So not only do we have a sense that we have spiritual gifts, but we also have the sense of responsibility, and we want to be faithful to our task, and success is a really important part in this stage. We want to experience a sense of success, that what we do matters. It's a really important and healthy part of this stage, that we really start to see that we matter, God has given us gifts, and God delights in us as we are, but also when we step up to contribute to the community and to even lead. So there's also in this stage 3, the productive life, important symbols and values placed on them. And the words they use to describe these symbols aren't things that I was expecting. I was expecting like the symbol to be the cross or the dove. But in fact, the symbols of value in this stage of faith are responsibility, titles, like nursery director or choir director or council member. Receiving praise from others is a symbol that we're doing this productive life in faith well. Some kind of recognition. Another value, that symbol that shows us value, is influence, that we can impact the community or the congregation in some way, and that we have a sense of respect, that people respect us for how we're contributing to the community of faith. All of these things are important in our stage of faith as we live into this productive way of life of working for God in this stage of faith. This fourth characteristic is really interesting to me, that we can put in our minds spiritual goals and that we can reach them. So here's what that kind of looks like. Whatever the sense of newness or freshness or breadth or depth may be, there is a sense of accomplishment at having come through or prevailed or survived or grown. There's a feeling of some closure, of finishing some leg of the trip, or of getting to a milestone. It is a big relief. I think this is a beautiful way of kind of tying the bow on these first 3 stages, where someone can come to an awareness of something bigger than them. They become a part of a community that shapes and forms them in this new awareness or this new faith. And then they get to this place of having a goal and reaching it. And it's that big relief of, I made it. I became aware of God. I got to be a part of this faith community. Now I have a real role in here. And I made it. I have a place to belong, and I know what I believe, and now I'm serving. Does that make sense? Okay, if we get stuck in stage 3, we can be overly zealous. Some who are stuck in stage 3 make others squirm, they wrote. We get so busy and so zealous and so excited for the project. We want everybody to be a part of it. We're super gung-ho on this faith community. We're super gung-ho on Word for Women or whatever, or the choir or something, and we can't understand why the other people aren't into it the way we are. It's disappointing and frustrating. In the church I was at in Ames, I was not into Beth Moore. And the people couldn't figure out why I wasn't into it. I just wasn't into her. But they really were, and I'll be honest, clearly that kind of drove me crazy in their zealousness. But I think we can all relate to that. When we finally find our place and we get to give our gifts and contribute and be a part of it, it feels great. I was like that with running. I found a running group. I invited all my friends to join the running group with me. Guess how many joined me? 0. But I was overly zealous for how that had changed my life, the running group. And I was learning so much and contributing, and I wanted everybody to experience it. Then, being caged, we get weary and well-doing. Another term they use is burned out. We get burned out from being productive. We work so hard at whatever we're doing as part of our faith experience that we become weary and well-doing. We're burning out and frequently at the same time feeling unappreciated without knowing why others disappointed us. So we really feel burned out in our working for God. In stage 3, we can get stuck, we can get self-centered. We can think if we're a leader of a group or a really important part of it, we can think that it's really all about us. We can come to feel indispensable, and that this thing can't run without me. And finally, in being caged at stage 3, life can become a performance. And that looks like you thrive on being in the leadership position. You are seen as a hero. You thrive on the audience reaction. You strive hard to be loved by everybody. And then you ultimately feel lonely. So when your life becomes a performance, when you're stuck in stage 3, it ends up that you're doing all of this kind of for the reason of having people like you and getting that affirmation and the performance aspect of it all. Okay. I'm going to stop there. Michelle, let's do some questions. Any questions about stage 2 and stage 3?
Oh, come on, I walked up here.
Okay. Oh, there's a question.
No, I'm coming.
That could be reached, is that an external goal, like being on council?
That's
Sorry,
a
did
good
everybody hear that?
question.
Okay. I just was wondering if she could talk about an example or two of a spiritual goal. Is that an external thing, like being in a position of leadership in the church, or is it
Yep.
something internal?
It can be, I'm going to answer it right from the book. The form of productivity or fruitfulness may not take on external visible signs of responsibility, leadership, or success. It may be a sense of having reached a level of spirituality or maturity in the faith that leads to a desire to do something with what has been attained or experienced. Perhaps it is a completion of a seminar, a Bible study, a training period, spiritual direction, a set of spiritual exercises. So I think it could be a both and thing, where the goal is you want to reach this external symbol that you've made it if you're on the council. The other thing is it could be a more of an inner goal where you want to achieve, like you want to take this seminar on faith. You want to attend a seminary class. You want to do some spiritual formation classes. That's a goal that you have. It's a spiritual goal. Does that make sense? And it is, I think, leading to gaining more information and more awareness of what your gifts are.
Got another question back here.
Thank you, Michelle. Along that line of what you said about your gifts, knowing what your gifts are, I think sometimes we are our worst enemies and we don't recognize within ourselves. We're so busy doing and helping and just getting through the day. I'm always looking for guidance and direction and support, but sometimes I think, introspective versus retrospective. And to be focused on helping ourselves grow is a challenge when we're so busy and we're helping so many in our own lives.
Yeah. I agree. And it's really, many congregations are set up to be with people who are in these two stages, stage 2 and stage 3 of the life of discipleship, forming people, teaching, and then providing opportunities for people to serve. There isn't as much time to pause and reflect and to listen for that deeper sense of what am I feeling, what's really calling me, what do I really desire in life. So I think you're right, and churches sometimes contribute to that because we keep people really busy with good opportunities, right? But as we go through these stages, go back, moving on, the transition from stage 3 to stage 4 often happens through a crisis, either a personal crisis or a crisis of faith. When you start to realize many of the things I've learned are not helping me through this really hard thing right now, and where do I go when I start questioning things about God or things about myself? So that kind of a crisis experience can often lead us through these stages. Way on the other side.
Get my steps in.
What happens if you've been so involved in everything for 50 years as I have, always the leader and went through all of these things through the Bible so many times and everything, and I've loved every minute of it. But now it's like, I'm through. I'm through with all that. Now I have to sit and kind of listen, and it's kind of hard for me to say, okay, what is my role right now? Because I've always been a leader.
Yep.
And it's just kind of different.
Yes. That is a great transition to the experience of moving through these stages, of moving from stage 3 to stage 4. Stage 4 is this journey inward. Just what you described, that you're kind of ready to be done being so busy, and you want to take some time to look inward and listen. And it's a time of uncertainty, a time of questions, a time of, I need to take a step ahead, and I don't know where this step is leading me. I think, for me, stage 4 and the wall are super interesting, because that is a time of that, I don't want to lead anymore. What will my faith look like if I let go of it? If I let go of some of these leadership positions and just be for a bit and wait. So that's where we're headed for next week, in the next stage of faith. Okay, let me say a prayer for your time together. Thanks for your attention today. Great to be with you. Let's pray. Gracious God, thank you for your presence through our entire journey of faith. For every back and forth, twist and turn, uphill and downhill road, we give you thanks. Thank you for your guidance, your encouragement, your companionship, and your love. Be with the small groups now, and may this strengthen all of our faith, give us a sense of belonging and a sense of our uniqueness in this community. And may your Holy Spirit just bless our days today with your love. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. See you next week.